So today we're going to be carrying out an aldol condensation between an unknown ketone and an unknown aldehyde. And the unknown ketone is K1, that's the first ketone. It is a clear, although very dark brown solution, or liquid. And B2, which is a slightly yellow, clear liquid. So I've gotten out pipettes and test tubes for measuring those two out. The catalyst is sodium hydroxide, solid, ground up nice and fine. We'll measure that out later. And I've gathered everything I need. I'm going to do the reaction in a 10 milliliter graduated cylinder instead of the test tube because I think it would be easier to stir it in there. So I've gotten my stir rod, I've gotten a beaker. Why I have that out will be clear in a minute. And I've gathered the ethanol because we're going to be recrystallizing from 95% ethanol and the 10% hydrochloric acid, which we'll use to quench the excess sodium hydroxide. I went and got some ice, because we'll need an ice bath later. And I have my assembly for filtration, a 25 milliliter filter flask with the number 2 rubber filter adapter, Hirsch funnel, and paper. I haven't gotten out the tubing yet, but we'll gather that later. And I got some pH paper out because we're going to be measuring the pH after we quench it. So we're going to do this reaction without solvent. We're just going to mix K1 and B2, 20 milligrams of, or 200 milligrams of K1, 0.2 grams, and 250 milligrams of B2, 0.25 grams. So I'm going to take with me my beaker, don't need that, and flask, and my compounds and my pipettes over to the balance. And the reason I brought the beaker is because I'm going to add these by dripping them directly into the flask. And by putting the beaker upside down there, I can get that flask up higher, which will make it much easier for me to get the pipette into the flask without knocking it over. So we'll tare that whole assembly to 0.0 grams. And then we're just going to open up the top. And we will pipette in dropwise. .2 grams of K1. Or as close to 0.2 grams as we can get, because we're kind of limited to adding single drops of compound. And I'm going to leave that pipette just in case this reaction doesn't work the first time. I'll have a pipette that's ready made. So we're actually using 0.210 grams rather than 0.2 of K1. And now we're going to tare that again and open up the top. And then pipette in 0.25 grams of the benzaldehyde. And again, I will also keep this pipette in case I need it. Be easy to tell which one's which. Ketone's on the left, aldehyde's on the right. But even if we didn't know that, one's brown and the other one's not. So again, accurate mass, that's 0.256 grams. So I'm a little bit over in both. I got 0.210 grams of the unknown ketone, K1, and 0.256 grams of the aldehyde. I'm actually just going to put these away in the Aldol condensation cabinet since I happen to be right here. I'll get them out again if I need them, but hopefully the reaction will work the first time. Set those aside. Shouldn't need that beaker. So there they are. They're mixed. And now we want to measure out, and I'm going to wear gloves for that because sodium hydroxide is nasty stuff. And it's almost impossible to avoid getting it on you while measuring that out. And I just want 0.05 grams or 50 milligrams of the sodium hydroxide. And we'll measure that out with one of the micro spatulas with a little grooved end onto a piece of weighing paper. We want to keep this open for a minimum time because it's quite hygroscopic and will pick up moisture from the air if we let it sit out. So we're just going to tear that paper. Make sure it's reading 0. I'm going to do this over a trash can because I suspect that flakes of sodium hydroxide are going to come squirting out. Always collects around the neck. Actually quite a bit around the neck there. Scoot that out so that when I put the cap back on I don't spill it. And I'm not that concerned with accuracy here. It can be a little bit more if I need it. So it looks like I've got 0.0